Have you ever wondered how work goes from Mexico all the way to the hands of a crackhead in Ocala, Florida? On today's video, we're going to go on an imaginary fictitious network that will bring work from Mexico into the United States. And I'm going to explain to you intricately how these networks work. And keep in mind, this is a completely fictitious thing. This isn't real. This doesn't exist. This is just my imagination of how things go from point A to point B. So from Mexico all the way to the hands of a crackhead in Ocala, Florida, I want to take you on a journey that explains to you how exactly this functions. And again, this is completely imaginary. This network does not exist. This is the crafting of my pure imagination. Let's get into it. A legitimate businessman in Fort Lauderdale, Florida has $40,000. He drops it off at a store somewhere in a commercial district with the promise that his $40,000 will be returned to a larger amount. In the past, this business person has got as much as $44,000 and even as high as $56,000 for a $40,000 investment. It's money from a legitimate business that's laying around doing nothing, and he wants to invest it. The person who gets the money takes it to a car dealership somewhere in Broward County, Florida, and that person certifies back in Monterrey, Mexico that the money's good to go. So at this point, the money doesn't physically leave the state of Florida, but now the money is certified good to go on the Mexican side of the border. Someone in Miramar, Florida, over the phone directs somebody in Mexico to pick up a larger sum of money, totaling $140,000. The money and the product will never be at the same place at the same time. All these things happen separately. Naples, Florida, a lawyer with ties to Colombia and Russia by marriage, lives a lavish beachside lifestyle that's funded by allowing his legitimate businesses to work for the money transfers. Only him and his wife actually know the scope of their operation, with most employees thinking that they're engaging in a legitimate business practice. They've never actually directly engaged in trafficking. All they do is facilitate the money transfers for hundreds and thousands of people. And while he's in contact with big players on both sides, he's never actually engaged in the physical activity of trafficking, but he has lent out his beachside golf access property, not exactly knowing what their intentions were with renting the property, but certain that they were definitely doing something illegal. These are large-scale global players. But let's go back to our small operation back in Broward. Back in Monterrey, Nuevo Leon, at a corporate office, the money has now hit the ground and it is a legitimate operation. The money is now being transferred to a regular business by secured vehicle, and as soon as the money actually changes hands in these offices electronically, a courier will literally pick up the money at a business in Monterrey and take it to somebody's secure house, posing as a construction worker. The $140,000 totaling the delivery going to Broward County for several different buyers is now underway. San Antonio, Texas. Overnight, the product crossed the borders in a combination of ATVs and jet skis. Using corrupt officials, they knew the exact timing of their operation so that there would be nobody working the area. And while there was absolutely no risk in getting caught, the timing had to be crucial. A construction equipment type truck has the material loosely in bags, and they're going to drop it off in a small farm on the outskirts of San Antonio. And at this point, the one load is already starting to split into different directions. Despite the money coming from one source, already this work is all going to different places. Half of the work is going to be put into the gas tank of an F-150, and from there it's headed to Memphis, Tennessee. $80,000 worth of the purchase will be put on a semi-truck, and that will head back towards Florida. The pickup truck headed to Memphis, Tennessee is already considered a delivery. The people from Memphis already had somebody in San Antonio to pick this load up. This individual once or twice a month makes a specific run to a specific place and back, and they've been doing this for years. This product is always transported inside the gas tank, and the people that he sees on both ends have been the same people he's dealt with for many years. Usually this individual makes his delivery by the 27th or the 28th of the month, giving a few days in preparation for the first of the month to the 3rd. This is the time of the month when in Memphis, Tennessee, there'll be the most demand because people will be receiving their government subsidies. So this is an operation that works like clockwork and has been working for many years, and this network has never really been discovered. It's the same people doing the same transaction. The only thing that varies is the quantity, but the dates are always the same and the individuals engaging in this activity are always the same. There is no variable here. The only difference here is that one of the buyers in Memphis is actually somebody from Nashville who's an associate to the people back in Broward County. So while the network has long been established, these individuals never get to see this end of the operation. So on one hand, the business person in Broward County that gave the $40,000 was giving them the money so they could do the transaction, but he was never actually involved with touching the work. But the people out of Nashville are going to actually be fronting the money to make the purchase, but at the same time, they're also going to be fronted part of the work because they're newly entering the business. They don't have enough capital. The capital that they had, they fronted it to the person who got the work, but now that person's going to have to front them the remaining money because they're not just engaging with the money, they're also engaging in purchasing the same product. Thus, at first, the buyer fronted the money to the dealer, but now the dealer has to front the work to the person who's selling it. But the general idea is that all these people, a network of 6 individual buyers, are pulling all their money together to make one large purchase and using an established courier to do the transaction from the same network it's coming from. Mississippi. Both the truck and the semi-truck heads of Florida leave together. Now the pickup truck cannot let the person in the semi-truck know the place, the stash house where everything came from. They actually met up and they drove together with the truck guiding the semi all the way down to about Louisiana, where the semi-truck continued towards Florida, and then the pickup truck went north through Mississippi towards Memphis. There's a few crucial bottlenecks of security where the pickup truck actually held the work for the semi. In other words, most of the time the work was in the semi, but during inspections, they would actually stop and interchange the product to make sure that the semi wasn't detected. But now, as the semi truck leaves Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida, it is on its own. The semi truck is now headed to Florida with $80,000 of the purchase. The following day, the semi truck returns to Broward County, but the work is long gone. Half of the load was taken to Baldwin, Florida, outside of Jacksonville. There's a truck stop by the highway. The semi-truck backed into this parking spot that backs up into a hotel. At this hotel, there was staying somebody who was going to make the pickup. The person in the semi-truck at night got out, walked to the hotel through the woods, and gave the bag to the person that was staying at the hotel, and that was one load. Over in Palm Coast, Florida, a similar transaction took place. The person with the semi-truck parked it right on the edge of the highway, and they delivered another package. In the early morning hours before the sun came up, the semi-truck parked in Palm Coast on the side of the highway, and again, there's a hotel in the back, and again, the final delivery was made because just a mile further south is an inspection point that is very crucial for this load because of where it's coming from. So overnight, both of the loads were delivered in north central Florida, and the semi-truck driver is now back in Broward County to get paid for the transportation part of what he did. In total, the operation made almost $500,000 for everybody in the network. Average person involved in this operation netted a total of $30,000. The person who gave $40,000 received back $55,000. The pickup from Baldwin, Florida was taken from the outskirts of Jacksonville to about an hour away to the outskirts of Ocala. Much of that went to businesses like smoke shops, other to housing projects, and other will be sold directly in the streets of Ocala. For this particular part of the operation, they're taken to a house where there's a lot of bicycles. Inside of these bicycles, in the frame, will be pre-packaged delivery amounts. During the busy rush hour part of the day when traffic is literally at a standstill, these individuals will all pick up bicycles numbering 7 or 8 and will all go in different directions with 7 or 8 individual packages that have been hidden inside of the bicycle frames. They choose rush hour traffic because this is when law enforcement is the least able to move because of the amount of traffic congesting the roads. Posing as just another junkie on a bicycle, these individuals will actually be making significant deliveries with the work stash in their bicycles to people who are actually trapping out of specific places. Mostly individuals hanging out on the outskirts of wooded areas, houses, and of course people within homeless camps. The chances of law enforcement in the daytime trying to take apart somebody's bicycle to see what's inside of it is almost unheard of, and this delivery method works very well to get the work directly from the larger source to larger selling spots without being noticed. Some of this stuff is also stashed in the articles like lamps and other items that will be taken to businesses where individuals will do the same thing out of a business front. By this time of day, the panhandlers have already stashed their money up and are going to be heading to these places to collect the night's evening hits, and everything has already been in play. This is my imaginary trafficking scenario. Of course, none of this is real. This is purely my imagination on how I believe it goes directly from Mexico all the way to the hands of a crackhead panhandling on 301 on the outskirts of Ocala, Florida.